Hey everybody, I'm AdamHarry from BoLS, taking a look today with another BoLS overview of the Codex supplement for the Salamanders, and of course a really quick glance through their data cards. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cards real fast, and then we'll dive into the book. And I'm pretty excited about these guys, but you got to get through these really quickly. You kind of know what's in here already. If you don't, if you've never used the data cards or picked up any for your army, you probably should. Anyway, you've got their new 6 new powers, their Promethean discipline here for their psychic powers. Those are included in here. We'll go through these a little bit more later. You also get all the stratagems that they have access to. So, and it's a ton of stratagems. All their chapter-specific Salamander stratagems are here. That's what these are for. I think it's like 27 of those. You also get all their different tactical objectives. If you're playing Maelstrom missions, these are pretty much what you need for the deck. Shuffle these together and get your tactical objective decks. So you kind of know what to expect with that. On to the book. Here we go. Salamanders are going to be a spicy book. Why? Well, they've got some really strong abilities, really strong synergies in this book. We'll see how the meta shakes out. They have the potential to wreck a lot of face with those flame weapons, which we'll go through all the rules here in a second. Inside this book, we're going to take a look at real fast. This is an overview, so we're not going to go page by page. But we're going to hit up some of the lore sections here, take a look at table of contents, visit their chapters, which their companies, which there are 7 of instead of the standard 10. We're also going to take a look at all their other rules, a couple of data sheets that are in here, things like that. So let's dive in here. Boom, boom. Awesome artwork. Salamanders. Here we go. Here's your table of contents. They got all the cool stuff here. One of the things that makes this chapter really unique is the fact that they only have 7 companies instead of the standard 10. The reason they do this is so that they can take the other 3 companies and kind of break up those units among the other 7. It goes back to their lore. They have the 7 great houses of Nocturne. We'll get into that here in a second. But that helps them withstand losses a little bit easier, a little bit faster, a little bit more nimble than some of the other chapters. Also, standard stuff here for their lore. We do get some more information about what's going on with Vulkanistan and the search for the relics of Vulkan. And we get introduced to Adrax Agaton as well. And then we'll get into all of their cool lore stuff. So if you like burning stuff, these are the guys for you. They have a history of flame and melta and just being a thing that they rock. That's how they do, and they're really good at it. Here's your chapter organization. Again, they are 7 companies instead of the standard 10, and that's a callback to the 7 great houses I mentioned earlier. And they have 12 basically battle units or squads or whatever you want to call them, battle line stuff. 12 of them per company instead of the standard 10. That includes, like, for instance, we have in the second company 7 battle line squads, 3 fire support squads, and 2 close combat squads. Again, that equals 12 versus the standard 10. Their first company also functions a little bit differently, where the captain of the first company, they're up here. That captain actually serves as the chapter master as well. Now, you might be wondering, well, where does the Forge Father fit into all this? Forge Fathers are different. We'll get to them when we get to Vulkan, but they are not chapter masters. Vulkanistan is not a chapter master, so if you're curious about that. There's, again, parts here we're going to talk about. It's going to go through the different company records and stuff like that. Again, the heraldry of some of them. Yeah, cool stuff there. 7th company, again, that's kind of the scout company, if you will. It's got the more vanguard elements of the army, things like that, kind of the restructuring of the armies. Chapter command goes through that. Then a brief history, again, pre-heresy, heresy era stuff, all the way through the wars of Armageddon, which is super cool. A couple other campaigns they worked through. Skipping over to this little timeline thing I really like. This talks about the history of the chapter in kind of small chunks. One of the things I really like here is the final section here talks about the Second War for Armageddon and kind of what happened with that. And then it gets into the Indominus era, which is kind of the current storyline we're looking at. A lot of members of the chapter felt like Vulkan Histan's quest to find the relics was pretty much impossible now, thanks to the Great Rift. But there is actually something that's picked up on their scanners. There's a planet called Zero, and there appears to be a flame that is ever burning, and that could be one of the relics. So it's actually a bit of a hint as to where they're headed next. You get more of that information here. I'm not going to go through it, but it's actually a really good read. Then we meet Adrax Agatone, who's the captain of the third company, and he is a captain, not a chapter master or anything like that. Forge Fathers, like Vulkan, are members of the Salamanders who have opted to search for these relics. So the 9 artifacts that the Primarch Vulkan scattered across the galaxy. So they have a special place. They're treated kind of like captains were or something like that, but they're not the chapter master. They're not captains directly. They are different. They are Forge Fathers. Moving through here. Again, we get the art section here that goes through all the models. Super cool looking. All that good stuff. And then we jump over to the first batch of data sheets. So I want to take a look here. There's Vulkan Histan's rules. And I'm going to zoom in here closer, tighter. There we go. Vulkan Histan's rules. Hasn't changed too much. Gauntlets of the Forge, which is his little flamer gauntlet. It's Assault D6, auto-hitting flamer. It is Strength 5, AP 1 damage. It's essentially a heavy flamer. He has the Spear of Vulkan, which is his melee ability. Melee attack. It is 2 strength, plus 2 strength, excuse me. 2 AP and D3 damage a pop. He's got 4 attacks base. He's got all the other fun stuff. Rites of Battle. So, again, he is not a captain, but he's got some captain-like abilities. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by models within friendly salamanders within 6 inches of him. He also has a Cassera's Mantle, which is a 3-up invuln save, and he has a Forge Father, which allows you can reroll hit rolls of 1, and you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made with flamer or melta weapons. So for salamanders within 6 inches. So again, funky kind of captain lieutenant thing rolled together. It's not quite the same as a lieutenant, but it's better for Melta and Flamer. You can reroll the hit rolls, not just 1, and wound rolls, which is pretty cool. Adrax Agatone is over here. He's got some cool abilities. Unto the Anvil is a little weird word-wise, but basically, if he's nearby a unit and that unit has was charged, or made a heroic intervention, that unit, not necessarily Adrax, but that unit gets to add 1 to their wound rolls. Now, that applies to him also, so if he charges or is charged, basically the first round of combat, salamanders within 6 inches of him are getting to add 1 to wound rolls in their combat attacks. Yeah, that's basically what it's doing. It's a cool ability, I like it. He's got a cool cloak, which gives him reduced damage. So if he gets hit, you reduce damage you attack by 1 down to a minimum of 1. He also has Rites of Battle. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by models, salamanders models while they're within 6 inches of him. Again, he's a captain, so that's what that means. He's got Dracus, which is a 12-inch range assault D6 attack. This is basically a flamer, strength 4, but AP minus 1 flamer, and they all auto hit. And then he's got the Malice Nocturne, which is that big old hammer, strength times 2, so he's swinging at strength 8, minus 3 AP, 4 damage. And then you do subtract 1 from the hit roll, but he gets Rites of Battle, and he's already hitting on a 2, so it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. Now we get to more of the rules. Their big thing for the combat doctrines is they get Promethean Colt. Now this applies when the tactical doctrine is active, so starting, if you want, start at 2. When resolving an attack made with a flame or melta, you get to add 1 to the wound roll. This is really spicy. Starting at turn 2, that gives you the first turn to close the gap with your flamers, with your meltas. Starting on turn 2, they're getting +1 to wound rolls. And it's going to combo very nicely with a bunch of the stratagems and stuff like that, which I'm not going to get into all the way today, but just know that is a thing. So, Promethean Colt, pretty solid. Who doesn't want flamers wounding on 2? Anyway, bunch of auto-hitting flamers. Yeah. Here's their warlord traits. Anvil Strength is a really strong one. Add 2 to the strength characteristic of a warlord. Again, slap that on with Thunderhammer, Power Fist, go to town. Adrax, Agatone, and Vulkan have their own warlord traits. So Adrax has Lord of Fire, which is this one right here. You can reroll the dice to determine the number of attacks made with flame weapons. So if you roll a 1 or 2, you can reroll that and hopefully get more shots. Anvil of Strength for Vulkan is the one I just mentioned. So Vulkan's actually swinging way higher above his weight class with that Spear of Vulkan. If we back up a page or two, again, that Spear of Vulkan right here is actually Strength 4 base, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 more is Strength 8. So, surprise! Yeah, that's why I wanted to call it as Strength earlier. Moving on, Relics of Nocturne, kind of the same deal. You've got 6 Relics of Nocturne. You've got, I believe it's more than 6 over here. There's a 2, 4, 6, 8 special issue war gear. And yes, they do have the ability to make sergeants characters. All that stuff's in the stratagem section, which we're about to get to. They have some really cool stuff. I like Drake Smiter. This is a replacement for Thunderhammers. It's a relic weapon. It's times 2 strength, AP minus 4, D3 3 flat damage. Abilities, you do subtract 1 from the damage hit roll. However, unmodified 6s add 3 to the damage of that attack. So it goes up from damage 3 to damage 6 if you roll unmodified 6s to wound, which I kind of like. It's fun. Plan roll 6s, baby. That's all you got to do. Here's a stratagems pages. I believe it's just the one. Yeah, the 2. Again, more stratagems for the Salamanders. Flamecraft is going to be a popular option. It's 2 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a Salamander's unit from this army is chosen to shoot with until the end of the phase when a model and that unit shoots with a flame weapon. Do not roll to determine the number of attacks made with that weapon. Instead, the maximum number of attacks are made with that weapon. So if it's a D6, it's just a flat 6. Boom. Watch out for those Invictor Warsuits popping up in your line, folks. Salamander Invictor Warsuits with heavy flamers and Flamecraft, and then shoot, go back to their Promethean Colt when they're getting the bonus to wound. Yeah, it's going to be pretty spicy. Pretty spicy indeed. Anyway, last but not least, Tactical Objectives and Promethean Discipline. They've got some cool stuff. 6 more psychic powers that only they get to use. Burning Hands is not a D&D spell. I mean, it is, but it's also a Promethean Discipline spell. It's a warp charge value of 6 if manifested until the start of your next psychic power. When resolving an attack made for a close combat weapon by the Psyker, if a hit is scored, the target suffers 1 mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. So, if you say you have like a power sword that only does 1 damage anyway, just turn it into mortal wounds and skip the saves outright. So, cool stuff. And then finally, Salamander's Name Generator 2. So that's all in there. Well, folks, that was the overview for the Salamander supplement and their new data cards. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm AdamHarry from BoLS. Thanks for watching. Click to subscribe. Check out more videos. And thanks for watching.